Heyo, this is Gary, and you have reached Get Going Fast, the place where we get into this excellent hobby of AI and hopefully sort of a quick and efficient manner in which you might actually learn something. And so today, we are going to be going back to the well of text-to-speech. So let's pop on over to yonder. We're going to be looking at something that this is called Nari, but this whose Bible is actually called Dia, and this is a 1.6 billion parameter text-to-speech model. Now, this one is interesting in that you can actually do multiple speakers with this, which is very cool. And supposedly, you're going to have voice cloning, which a little bit of a what do you call it? A spoiler. I haven't gotten the voice cloning working particularly well, but we're going to cover out how you can play with that as well. Okay, so before we do that, though, I do want to thank you for liking the channel, subscribing, setting that notification button so that late at night when the children are tucked in, the wife is sleeping so gently, a little bit of jazz is playing, and you go bang, all of a sudden you can pop over here and get your spazzy, get going fast content. And then tell other people about it. Be like, whoa, it changed my life, man. Whoa. Okay, I appreciate that about you. That's very, very good of you. You're very community-minded, and that's a great trait. So we are going to move on with Dia 16B here. We're going to install it using the command line. Chop, 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 chop. Kind of an interesting, we're going to get to talk a little bit, kind of interesting way to install this. So you're going to learn a little bit more about Python coding to come, which is cool. And like I said, we're going to play with the code a little bit and see what we can do. So hang in there, and we'll be right back with more Dia text-to-speech. Okay, so we are back, and like I said, we're going to be using this thing. So we're going to actually be installing the repository, which is going to give us a Gradio app to play with, and then we can play with it and make stuff like this.
Dia is an open weight text dialogue model. You get full control over...
Oh, I don't think you can hear that, so hold on just a second. And there we go.
Dia is an open weight text to dialogue model.
You get full control over scripts and voices.
Wow, amazing.
Try it now on GitHub or Hugging Face.
Okay, so you see there we had a speaker 1, we had a speaker 2, we got some laughs in there, right? I'm all in it for the laughs, right? And there's going to be a list that we'll look at that shows us the thing. I'm going to point out here it's got bad words in some of this demo, so a little trigger warning for you, but that also shows you that this thing can do curse words if you are thus inclined to do so. All right, so we're going to first of all get this installed, real easy, and then we're going to go ahead and look at how to play around with the supposed cloning. I'm going to show this is not a perfect app, okay? I think it really has potential, but you're going to see there's some shortcomings to it, but it's good. It's great. It's a good addition. We're going to keep our eye on this. As usual, you can always go over to the Get Going Fast page, and the work we're going to do here, I have gone ahead and set up an installer for both CUDA, for both Windows and Linux, okay? And I just went ahead and gave this free for all Prairie Dog members, so that's just our lowest $5 members. So if you just want to play with this, you can get that there, or just get it as a one-time purchase. So anyway, let's rock on over to Electric Avenue. And we're just going to type in Dia, and I'm going to type TTS 16B GitHub. So it's not extremely known, so we got to kind of make sure that we can find it. And we're going to find this one from Nari Labs, okay? Not Gnarly. That'd be like if it was a surfer, they'd be like, Gnarly Labs, brah, right? This is not this. This is Nari Labs, not Nari. Don't worry, that's a common mistake people make, especially surfers. Gnarly Waves, Gnarly Labs. So as we scroll down, we're going to see that here's the repository, and it's really not that difficult. We're going to go ahead and do this. So notice it's going to be using something called UV. And this is where I'm going to do some explaining to you. Normally we use what is called our, we pip install stuff, okay? We're going to use something that is called UV. And obviously we don't have to. We can do it this normal way, but I kind of want to show you how that works, okay? So, and explain to you what it is. So let me go ahead and do that, I guess. Okay, so when we are installing stuff with pip, okay, which is our normal Python package installer, we have a list of things we want to install. We want to install Torch. We want to install Torch Vision. We want to install diffusers. We want to install the Hugging Face hub. And so pip, what it does is it goes through each one of these and it does it line by line. So let's do this one and let's get it all down and then let's install it. Then let's go to this one. And we are going to download that one, and then we're going to install it, and so far down here. It's a meticulous method of moving down the line. Now, what happens with pip is that if one of these things are broken in the chain, it breaks the entire chain. As well, sometimes what will happen is, let's say that I am installing A, B, C, and D, but for C to be installed, actually it's dependent on D already being there. So installs C and it goes, D's not there, so it doesn't properly install. Then it goes installs D. Well, it's too late because it's doing it in a systematic manner. So UV, what that is it's actually part of Python. It's not just something that someone made for Python. It actually, the Python people have created UV for us, but it hasn't been completely, it hasn't completely removed pip. But what it does is it says, okay, let's look at this list of all these things, A, B, C, D, E, all this stuff. And instead of going in a systematic manner, let's take this and let's look at it. Let's figure out what's the best way to install these. And it will go there and say, oh, well, actually, C is going to be dependent on D, so let's make sure we do D first. And it looks like, we could probably get a better installation if we go B or A. Think of it like going on a trip, right? Like you're just jumping in the trip. You're like, yo, woo. And you're heading down the road and you said, we're going to stop at this place. We're going to stop at the cheeseburger, museum. And then we're going to go down here and we're going to stop at, see the biggest ball of twine. And you're just kind of going from one place to another as it comes. But then you get and that's pip, okay? And, if something happens, it happens. And then UV is like sitting down saying, well, we would like to go to see the largest ball of twine, and we would like to go to the cheeseburger museum, and what's the best way that we could do this? And so you sit there and you're planning it out. Oh, well, actually, if we go here first, then we can actually hit the restaurant at this time, because this place is only open from this time to this time. So if we hit that first, then we can actually go over here and get lunch, and then we can hit that. And so you plan it out. That's what UV does for us, okay? So UV looks at all our dependencies, and it plans the best route. Also, what it does is instead of saying downloading one and then moving to the next, it downloads them all simultaneously. So it actually saves time as well. It plans out what it's going to do, and it does it in a faster manner. Okay, so why has it not been adopted into Python completely yet? Because it's still it doesn't do. Let's say it does 98 or 99% of the things pip does. There's still some things it doesn't do that they don't want to completely remove it yet. Okay, and these are going to be things that probably really aren't going to bother us. They're going to be like low case issue sort of stuff. As well, people know pip, so they just sticking with that. But what we can do, we can go ahead and we're going to install UV, ironically, by using a pip command. And then we're going to use UV, and what it's going to do is it's going to actually install everything for us. It's actually kind of cool. So feel free to learn from this. This is almost like a 2 video. I feel like you should watch it twice so that I get the the view for watching the UV and then the view for doing the audio. Okay, I'm just kidding, of course. But let's go back to our browser. And so we've got a few of these things that says, we're going to go ahead and get clone this, and then we're going to go ahead and use this UV to run this thing, and it's going to go ahead and do all of our stuff for us. Now, we can do it this way as well, okay? This is our normal way of doing it using pip. We get clone it, go to our directory, create our virtual environment, Okay, we can see that they wrote this for Linux. You can tell that this is for Linux because it says source instead of call. Okay, you can also tell it's for Linux because see the slash, that slash is leaning to the right. That's a forward slash. Linux uses forward slashes. Windows uses backslashes. Okay, so that's not a big deal. We'll just change these things up as we work with them. But again, on a side note, that's kind of a quick way to be able to tell that that they wrote this for Linux instead of Windows. But it's going to work for Windows. Okay. And then you get down here to their pip install, and then they're installing the directory. Okay, and so you could actually, once we install UV, you could type UV pip install, and it would do the same thing. But we're just going to go ahead use this method up here. But I love that you asked this because that tells me that you're listening. Good catch. We are actually going to go ahead and have to create our own virtual environment. And all of that before we get into here. So let's do this. Let's go on over to our terminal window. See if we can find it. And there we go. So I'm going to go in the D drive. And I'm just going to go ahead and make a directory. mkdir means make directory. I think it's always best to have a directory called AI tools. That's probably just the best way to organize your stuff. And then I'm going to go CD, means change directory, AI tools. And then in here, I'm going to make another directory. I'm going to call it Dia. Okay. So mkdir, big directory. Now I'm going to go into Dia and I'm going to start doing my work in here. This is, again, just a good way of organizing it because now under tools, I can install Comfy UI, or I can install Sonic, or I can install, Roop or Rope or whatever I want. And then it's all in one place, and we'll know it works because it's close to the ground. And I also want you to notice that I put a dash in here. Never create a folder with a space in it. It will cause you headache down the road. So if you need to put a space, put a dash. Okay. All right. Anyway, let's go back over here, and we just got to git clone this first. So let's go ahead and grab this, copy it, press Control C. Then let's head back to our command terminal and paste that bad boy in by pressing Control V. Okay. I think you can also just right click and that will put it there as well. So again, Git is our app that downloads repositories. So we're calling the app. We're saying that we're going to want it to clone something, and then we're telling it what it's going to clone. So we'll go ahead and hit that, and it says cloning into Dia. You can always know what it's going to clone into because it takes the last bit of the link and it creates that folder. So it's created a folder called Dia, and now it's done. If I type dir for directory, you're going to see it created a folder called directory. So I'm going to go cd Dia. Now if I type dir for directory, I'm going to see everything that's in there. Okay, yo. Now what we need to do is we need to create a virtual environment. And so what we're going to do is just go ahead and create a Python one. Now, if we go over to browser, we can see over here that they created one. So you can actually just copy this, but there is a small change I'm going to make. Okay, I'm going to put this in here. Well, let's clear the screen here. CLS clears the screen. They put a dot before their Vim. I don't like that. I'm going to just get rid of that dot. So what we're doing is we're calling Python, and we're using this -m to say that we want it to use one of its functions as a standalone app. And that we're saying we want you to run Vim. Okay, so we're saying it's kind of like we're using Python, but we're actually using Vim. Okay, and then what Vim does is it creates a virtual environment, and we're going to name it Vim. So whatever we want to name it, we could call it my Vim if we wanted, or your Vim, or the very best Vim, whatever. But every time you load it, you're going to have to type that in. So we just stick with Vim because in the community, everyone knows what that means. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Okay, and that is going to go ahead and create a virtual environment. Okay, I'm not sure why it's taking so long, but there we go. Okay, now if I type dir, you're going to see there's a folder called Vim. That's our thing. And inside of Vim, you'll see there's a folder called scripts. And inside of scripts, there's a app called Activate. And that's what we're going to actually call to activate our virtual environment. So but I want to get out of here. So I'm going to go cd ... which means go back one directory, put a backslash, and put another ... because I want to go back two directories. I want to get back to where our Vim folder was. All right. Now, going over to our browser here, you're going to see this is how we activate it, but this is how you activate it with a Linux computer. So we need to do something different. What we're going to do is go back over to our command terminal, and we're going to type call. So call replaces source, and we're going to go vimv. So we're calling this directory, and I'm putting a backslash to say that that's a directory. Then I'm going to say there's another directory, and they're called scripts. And then inside of that directory, there is something called activate. And notice now it pops out, and we are in a virtual environment, which is great. Okay. Now, I'm not going to go ahead and bother installing the CUDA toolkit at this point, because the way that it's working, it's going to go ahead and recognize all that for us. Now, if we go back to our browser, you're going to see it has us doing this pip install. We're going to go ahead and just do this UV run, okay? Because I want you to see this. This is actually pretty cool. So first of all, what we have to do is we actually need to go back to our command terminal, and we need to install UV. So I'm going to go pip install UV, okay? And that's going to go ahead and install that. Now remember, UV is basically just a replacement for pip, okay? So now we can go back here, and we're just going to go ahead UV run app py. And again, because UV is a little bit smarter than pip, it's going to figure out the dependencies we need. So actually, before I do that, let's go dir. You're going to see we've got an app.py here. Okay, so that's going to actually probably be our Gradio app. So it's going to look at that. It's going to figure out what we need. So we're going to type UV like we would normally type pip, but this time we're typing UV, and we're telling it we want it to run something, and what do we want it to do? We want it to run app.py. Now watch this. I'm going to click this, and notice it's going to go through there, and it's going to figure out exactly what we need. Okay, you can actually see it down here. It's grabbing the stuff. And this will take a little while because it's installing the full thing. You know, we ordered the full cheeseburger with grilled onions and eggs and all that good stuff. So it's going to go ahead and install this. Okay, I will show you really quickly here. Well, I can tell you that again, like if we were doing our own thing, you could replace all your pip stuff with this. So we ran the app there, which I suppose you could do, but we could also say we had we were installing something from a requirements file, which is something that we do quite a bit of, right? And let's say it looked like this. Okay. You know, normally if we're gonna we pip install our requirements.txt. Normally this is how, like when we're installing apps, we install a file. We tell it we want pip to install from a -r. Well, what we would do here if we wanted to use UV is literally just put a UV in front of it. So there you go. That's not so difficult, is it? But you can play around with that. If everyone's at different levels, so you don't have to really worry about this if it's something that doesn't make sense. Because it's not mandatory to understand it. Just it's kind of interesting, kind of cool. All right, so we're going to pause this, and I will be back when it is done. And this will be all we need to do, and then we'll play with the app a little bit. Meanwhile, while we're waiting, I want to encourage you to go do a Google search for YT Music or Spotify or wherever you listen to your streaming music, and do a search for Jim Day and the Better Stories. Find good music to listen to while you work, like this.
I've been trying to reconcile just what these memories mean to me, but I still ain't right from that last fight, the one from whence you ran into the arms of another man.
And there we go. She's done. So all we got to do now is go ahead and copy this bad boy, pop on back over to our browser, and we paste it in there, and we just Control V that into there, okay? And that's going to go ahead and bring us up to the Gradio app. And you'll notice that we've got our speaker 1 or speaker 2, all this good stuff, and we've got our laughs thing here. So really quickly, let's pop on over to here, back to our GitHub, and if we scroll down, you're going to see a list of different things we can do. Whistles, burps, humming. Let's try a burp, okay? I'm a guy. We got to try burps. No farts, evidently, so we'll settle for burps. I'm like a child. I'm a 13-year-old here. Dia's open weights, text to dialogue mode. Let's have a burp, okay? And let's go ahead and let's try sings. Let's see what singing is. Singing and burping. What else do you need in life? Okay. So we go ahead and, let's hit that generate audio. That shouldn't take that long. I want to show you over here on the command terminal. One of the things it said is, I think it was here. It said loading device CUDA. So you can see it loaded the CUDA. If you're not getting that, then you know that something's wrong with that. Okay, let's see if this is done. So that's generating. Again, you got examples down here that you can click on. And here we go. Let's see how she turned out.
Dia is an open weights text to dialogue model.
You get full control over scripts and voices.
Wow, amazing.
Try it now on GitHub or Hugging Face.
Okay, so there you go. I'm sure you can use that in your social media stuff. There's going to be real time to need that. Okay, so now let's let's go play with the cloning over here. I don't think I think I've heard the cloning's broke. I have not been able to get the cloning to work, but let's go here. It says voice cloning in the Hugging Face space. Okay, so that's different. That's going to be if we go up here. There actually is a free one here on here, update. We have a 0 space. You can click there and that will bring up this. Okay. So supposedly you should be able to do it here too. But it's saying the 0 space. I'm also going to show you how to do this by command line. But essentially what it's saying is, let's say I want to drop an audio clip in here. Okay. And let's say I go find, I know you can't see my screen at the moment. Let's say I grab something like this.
A 70-year-old Idaho man was arrested after allegedly striking a pro-Trump counter-protester with his car.
All right, so let's say I wanted to clone that. What I would have to do is I would have to get the transcript of that. So you could use something like Whisper. You could go over to your browser and just type something like, I would type Whisper speech to text, something like this, you know, or maybe just type transcribe audio to text. There we go. And then I would find something like this, one of these free ones down here, download it, upload it, it'll give you the text. Okay, so then supposedly what you would then do is here, according to what that's saying, which you would then type your S1 and then you would put your transcript in there. I'm assuming put a space in there and then have what you want it to have and then work. I haven't been able to get this to work. Maybe you will, but that's what it says there. It says down here, if you want a voice clone, where did it go? There it goes. It says upload the audio you want to clone like we did. Place it in transcript before your script. Make sure your transcript follows the required format. The model will then output only the content of your script. So even when I have got it to kind of work, it hasn't actually given the part afterwards. So this is why I think you need to continually update this app, because I think they're working on it. But really quickly, let's go over here and I want to show you what's happening with this on a file level. So let's pull this over to here. Okay. So here we're actually inside of our Dia folder. And what you're going to find is if you click on example, you're going to find two folders here. One is called voice clone.py and the other is called simple.py. Okay, so effectively, if we look inside of this thing, let me pull this up for you. If we look inside this folder, I right click on it and go edit in Notepad. Okay, you're going to see that in here, you should put the transcript of the voice you want to clone. We will use the audio created by the running simple PY as an example. Note that you will be required to run simple PY for the script to work as is. Okay, so what that is doing is if we open up the simple.py, you will see that in here, all it's doing is it's creating some text, but it's creating an output called simple.mp3, but it's not actually cloning anything. It's just creating a random voice. And then essentially what it's saying is that after you create this random voice, it will work with this as is. Okay. But that doesn't really do us any good. We don't really want to just be cloning a voice that was just created. So what we would do in here, let's say we went and we transcribed the voice of that gal that we just had. We would get the transcript and we would put it in this section. Okay. Clone from text. Okay. We'd say this is what she's actually saying. Okay. Then we go down here to text to generate and we would put in here what we want her to say. Okay. And these have to relate S1, S2. Okay. And then over here, we need to, here's the clone from audio. So when you create the single thing, it creates a file called simple.mp3. That's why it says that it has to be used here. What we would do is, let's say that gal, her name's Darla. So we would put, we create the MP3, we put darla.mp3 into here. Or whatever the name of the file is. We put the transcript, say, in this file of Darla MP3, this is what she's saying. And we say, this is what I want her to say. Okay. Then what we would do is we would pop over to our command terminal. And let's do it like this. And we'd be in this folder. If we type dir, we can see voice code. Okay. So what we'd have to actually do is we need to copy the darla.mp3. So I forgot that. We'd go back over to our file explorer and we'd make sure that our file is there. Okay, so there we go. I've copied that over. We have our Darla MP3. If we go back to our command prompts, type dir, you'll see they're all there. Then what we would do is we're not worried about simple because we don't need to create one. We want to clone. So then after we'd saved all that, we would use this voice clone. So we would just type Python. Well, actually, we have to make sure that we're in our virtual environment. So we go like this. Okay, we go cd ... to take us back one. We go call vim scripts activate. Okay. Okay, we'd see that we're in our virtual environment here. Then we would go back to our CD example. And we can see we're in the right place. dir, there it all is. Then what we would just do is we would type Python voice _ clone.py. And then it would go ahead and it would run it. It will output a file and then we could run it. Now I'm going to tell you that when it does it, it's really not that good. It goes too fast. It's really, I just tell you, the cloning process on this is not good. Okay. It's not complete. It's not fixed. So, whatever it is what it is. In the meanwhile, is it worth playing with? Yeah, absolutely. You could do some good stuff with this. You could figure out, if you figure out the cloning, let me know. You can click down here and it's got the samples. It'll throw it up there. You can get multiple voices. Multiple voices is a very cool thing to do. For me, again, I need actual voice cloning. So I'm going to use probably Zonos. Zonos has good voice cloning. I'm going to use F5. Zonos is probably the best. This is really good with obviously, it's got a breadth of talk style, which hopefully is going to get good because it's better to have more naturalistic ways of speaking that are coming out. So I think this is going to have a really good benefit in the future. The laughing, the burping, all that stuff, that's hilarious. I think it's great. The fact it's multi-speaker is just absolutely great, absolutely awesome. And the fact that it's able to create those and then keep those voices. So somehow it's creating that voice and then still cloning itself. So I don't know. Keep an eye on it. Simple app, doesn't take long to play around with it. Like I said, we do have it over at the Get Going Fast page. We have a list over here. You can get to this by typing disclaimer.getgoingfast.pro, and it has a list of all the applications that are available for either single purchase or for members. But down here you'll see it. Got all sorts of audio stuff here, and here's Dia 16 for our Prairie Dog members. And anyway, I guess we'll leave it there. You guys enjoy that. Have a good rest of your weekend. Hit us up on the Instagrams. Find us on the Reddits. We're on X. Come over, hang out with on the Discord. Of course, we're here on YouTube. You are welcome to be part of our community, and let's see what kind of stuff you're working on. Send us your safe for work stuff. We'd love to see it. In the meanwhile, you stay good, and as usual, we will catch you on the other side. Yo.